We will call this regular Board of Education meeting for West Southwest Welcome School District to order, please. If you could please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. And Mr. Lee, would you please lead us? Thank you very much. Okay, Suzette, if we could please do roll call.
Yes. Mr. Eustruck.
Here.
Mr. Keller will be arriving soon. Mr. Schultz.
Present.
Mr. Sikich.
Present.
Mr. Lee.
Here.
Mrs. Kaiser is excused. Ms. Klug. Mrs. Justum.
Here.
President Emmons.
Here. Notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with open meeting laws of the state of Wisconsin. Do we have any additions or modifications to tonight's agenda?
I have nothing.
Okay, we'll then move on to item 6 of our agenda, our public comment. If there's anyone here today in the room or on Zoom that wants to provide public comment, if you're on the Zoom, if you could put your name in the chat and we will call you. If you're in the room and you want to make public comments, we'll have you come to the public comments. The public comments computer, and if you could please list your name and address. We'll have up to 3 minutes to address the board and go from there. Thank you.
All right, my turn. Oh, Amy Graf, 12940 West Crawford Drive in New Berlin. During the school board meeting on March 8th, a vote was made to move our district into phases 4 and 5 today, March 22nd. I am here on behalf of the Teachers Association, the West Southwest Milwaukee Education Association. I am also a parent in the district as well. The West Southwest Milwaukee Education Association would like to address concerns we have regarding your vote for students returning to in-person learning, which was just 5 days prior to the end of the third quarter. First of all, it showed great disrespect to all teachers in our district. We have worked extremely hard to accommodate all learning platforms throughout the pandemic. Asking for what ultimately equates to 3 days was not unreasonable. One reason we advocated for a return after spring break was for safety and health reasons. An April 7th or 8th return, I guess, depending on elementary or high school, would have given many teachers an opportunity to become fully vaccinated with their second COVID shot, since social distancing no longer exists with the return of a majority of our students today. We were also concerned that as of March 8th, air purifiers were not in place, but we are relieved that the order was able to be placed and air purifiers have been installed in most classrooms, so we thank you for that. A second reason is based on the end of the quarter. Today is March 22nd, but the end of the quarter is not until this Friday, March 26th. Many teachers, especially in the elementary schools, have had a change in their rosters. Because Skyward cannot change until after final grades have been posted, attendance is being done on paper until changes can be made in Skyward. These attendance sheets had to be created by the secretaries, and that was an extremely time-consuming task, which will have to again be redone in April. Since class rosters can't change, students must access certain learning platforms like Lexia and Reading A to Z under their previous classroom teachers, which for a lot of our younger ones, that's quite confusing. This also means that the current teacher doesn't have access to their progress and can't assign lessons. This was an unnecessary burden on the classroom teacher just 1 week shy of the end of the quarter. Again, the vote to implement phases 4 and 5 was simply to gain an additional 2 or 3 days of class before the end of the quarter. That's something to think about. It was also extremely disheartening to see a school board member post on social media that he already planned to advocate for a March 22nd as the return to school date. This was an open meeting and nothing should have been decided upon until all the information was shared and discussed. This only further supports the widely held mistrust by teachers that their voices are not being heard. Whereas our commitment to students is 100%, we collectively feel that you don't share a comparable level of dedication to teachers regarding our safety and well-being. Moving forward, what would we like to see? Or what would we like to see happen? We would like to see a school board who will ask questions, not just during board meetings, but all the times in between. Our West Allis West Milwaukee Education Association has been reaching out to all of you. We would like our voices heard, but are you listening? Thank you for your time.
You did. Deneen Bagley.
2826 South 83rd Street in West Allis. I just want to thank the board for voting to go back to school on March 22nd. I'm applauding you. My kids loved going back to school. That's all they talked about all weekend long, how excited they were. And today, the feedback that I got from the kids was very promising. I'm not worried about COVID, them getting COVID or anything else. What I was worried about was that they weren't getting a proper education. And, you know, kudos to the board for doing what needed to get done. Thank you to the teachers for doing what they needed to do. We have no complaints. We are, you know, great. I would like school to start sometime in August to make up for the missing education that they have. So again, thank you guys. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for getting school started. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't have any other comments listed in the chat. So that being said, we will move on to item 7, the superintendent's report. Dr. Lechman.
Great, thank you. I will go ahead and share my screen. And we will start with update on where we are with our return to school plan. And so this is for the March 22nd board meeting. And as we do each time, a little bit of an agenda. So again, we'll take a look at the principles that have guided us all along, the health metrics. And we continue to be in a good place, even though there's a little bit of a blip in the wrong direction, but it's not of concern yet. And then we'll talk a little bit more about where we are with varsity football, because you remember football was moved to the spring. And then just reminders again on the plans for graduations and completions. And then how we're doing in maintaining operations, a little bit of the challenges of people being out ill after the second shot with some of the side effects that we are going to be experiencing. So again, we focus on safety and well-being, learning that works for all, responsiveness and flexibility, and then practicality of implementation. So where we are with metrics, you know, I don't have the metrics from last week. The health department did not send those yet. So the last we have is from March 9th. And you'll notice the Milwaukee County met burden rate has been going down, although the West Allis one has a small tip up again, as has the percent positive ticked up a little bit again. And that is not an uncommon trend. We're hearing things about plateaus even nationally. And so I just really want to take this moment to encourage everybody to stick with the mitigation practices, you know, keep social distance, good hygiene until we're all vaccinated. The internal metrics, those also went up a little bit. Sorry, I'm trying to move you guys out of the way. So we went from 0.07% to 0.12%. Again, not a surprise that we have many more people back in schools. We're still well within the green for in-person learning for phases 4 and 5. And then this was last week, Friday's numbers. And this has gone up quite a bit for students. Staff is actually down quite a bit. So 2 active positive cases among staff from last week, 14 that were had with quarantine, and 3 of the exposures were work-related as far as we know, and then none monitoring. And then for students, 9 positive, 118 quarantining, and you know, half of those were related to school, and 10 that were low risk or just having to monitor. And so we expect that we'll see these numbers increase. We hope that it's not going to be a surge, that our practices and all the air purifiers and those things really work for us. But we are ready to respond if we have, large numbers of staff in particular going out. A couple little bit of the fun things about trying to get back to normal, right? So getting football back going. So Friday, March 26th, the Bulldogs kick off, and then on Friday, April 2nd, the Huskies kick off. We're still 2 spectators per rostered athlete, but we are going to be opening a student section. And what's been happening is because we're outdoors now, so we'll open a student section so that the rostered spectators, it could be mom and dad or grandma and grandpa, and we'll have a separate student section. Cheer and dance teams are going to be performing. Masks and social distancing is still required. There will be concessions. It's all going to be marked for social distancing in line, all the dots and things we're used to, the signage, all prepackaged. Eating and drinking only occurs when spectators are seated. So we want them seated kind of with the people they came with. And so that's going to be a little bit of a challenge to reinforce, but those are the expectations that help us, implement something of a football season for our students and our student athletes. And again, just reminders, graduation and completions. So these are, save the dates, all outdoors is our plan. And so all 3 8th grade completions will take place at different times on June 9th. So they each have a window of time. The rain date would be on the 10th. Dotke will be June 10th in the evening, and the rain date of June 11th. And Central and Hale, so that's Saturday at their normal times, as they would have been. But all this is out at the athletic complex, and Beth and the team are working on getting a company to come in to set up all chairs that won't damage the fields, everything socially distanced, a stage, a great big sound system. So we're looking forward to having something in person for our graduates. There still will be the virtual drive-up graduation for families that aren't comfortable coming to the in-person. In-person will be open if students are doing in-person learning or virtual learning. They could still come to the in-person graduation or do the drive-through graduation if that's their choice. And then last challenge of maintaining operations. So this was Longfellow today, in fact, had 8 of 11 teachers out. And it really is Deidre and the team and our specialist art, music, phy-ed teachers that really stepped up because we were well past the threshold that we set where we probably would close the school, but to do that on the very first day back and to notify families at 8 o'clock on a Sunday night that sorry, the first day is not going to actually happen. So just really appreciate how much the team stepped up. These are really related, as far as we know right now, to vaccine side effects. And so another reminder to our families that we could see closures in coming days as more employees now are going to start rolling into the window of getting their second shots. And we managed today, but if we have 2 or 3 buildings in this situation, we're not going to be able to cover it all. And then next steps, we're just going to continue our end of year event planning, continue summer school planning, and there's going to be quite a bit of work to have an expanded, accelerated summer school. And then we're going to be monitoring state guidance on early start to the new school year. So we're watching that if we can get kids back sooner. And then again, monitoring staff absences. I know Jeff is on top of this with the HR team, but it's going to be several weeks before we're out of that window of the second shots. So does any board member have any questions?
I have a question.
Okay.
For the Bulldog and Hale varsity football kickoffs, are we going to put any information on the website on streaming to watch?
Oh, we certainly can do that. Yeah, because we just got the Wi-Fi all set up out there. So we have the capacity now to, so I see Beth nodding. So, okay, we got it.
Other board member questions? All right, we'll move on to the next item.
Okay, 7.2 is the legislative update. So the spring election in the state of Wisconsin is on Tuesday, April 6th, 2021, and we strongly encourage people to go vote. On the ballot for state superintendent of schools is Deborah Kerr and Jill Underly. And then on the ballot for a local school board race for West Allis, West Milwaukee et al. Is Brendan Burns, Jane Carr, Amy Deal, Christine Klug, Joseph Mikulacek, and Gary Schultz. And then at the state level, there's a special education aid proposal. Legislative Fiscal Bureau has produced a memo estimating the special education aid each district could receive under the Governor Evers' proposal to increase special education funding in his state budget plan. Actual aid will differ based on each district's actual costs, but the proposal to increase the reimbursement percentage of special education cost to 45% would be one of the biggest game changers in our budget. We could see potentially $3 million more in revenue according to these calculations. Now, it's most likely the governor's budget will not get passed as is, but any increase in this reimbursement would be very helpful for us. We're going to continue to watch that, and there were no updates on the federal level at this time. And then 7.3, our Board of Education recognitions at West Milwaukee Intermediate. Thank you to 6th grade balanced literacy teachers Brittany Ruiz and Jennifer Proki for their creative, engaging approach to reading using OWL broadcasting technology. So this is some of the new technology that we brought in during virtual learning. So using OWL broadcasting technology, their learners are creating podcasts in which they play the characters from the books they are reading and summarize their novels. In finance and operations, congratulations to our facilities manager, Steve Eichmann. Steve recently completed a program sponsored by the Clean Management Institute, and he is now a certified work loading specialist. Work loading is the foundation of a successful cleaning plan and professionally assessed custodial operations using industry recognized recommendations. The strategic process will reduce system waste and improve efficiency. And then in leadership and learning, congratulations to everyone who participated in the conversations about equity thus far. Our first segment got 259 views, and the second one got 81 views since launching on March 16th, 2021. And then finally, communication and community relations. Special thanks to Bruce Heisler, Jim Johnson, Steve Eichmann, Brandon Schmutz, Karen Johnson for coordinating the installation of Wi-Fi at the West Dallas Athletic Complex, and we'll now be able to live stream outside events. And then 7.4, just a couple quick updates from me. There were quite a bit of public comments on March 8th, the last regular meeting we had. There were 12 people, and there was various levels of support for moving to phases 4 and 5, and some concerns expressed, and we addressed most of those later in that very meeting when we presented the proposal that the board then decided to move forward with on March 22nd. But with all of that, the board's aware that we've moved to phase 4 and 5 today. So this feels like the third time we've started the school year. And so with all of the energy and excitement that comes with, we started virtual and then phase 2, and now we're in phase 4. And so hopefully this is not going to be the end of trying to start over again. We have State of the Schools presentations are coming up. We actually start tomorrow. So this is just an update on where we are in our work. And this year we're going to spend more time focused on kind of the learning that's been taking place. And just because we're well out of kind of crisis mode, and we spent a lot of time in the last few years with State of the Schools explaining kind of how we managed to work our way out of the crisis space. And now we're really in the creating space. So March 23rd, 3:45 p.m., March 24th at 6 p.m., and March 25th at 10 a.m. They'll all be the same. There'll be different students that participate and different staff in some of these. We'll record them, so they're all virtual and all available should folks want to view them later on. And then, like I said earlier, I want to encourage everyone to get vaccinated. It's not required, but we're strongly encouraging it, and continue wearing masks and participating in all the good mitigation practices, because now that we have almost all of our kids back, we want to keep them in school. So I thank you, and that concludes the superintendent's report.
Great, thank you, Dr. Lexman. All right, moving on to our board reports for the evening. Item 1 is the review of our board calendar. So tonight, March 22nd, we have a regular Board of Education meeting. And immediately following that, we do have a closed session. On Monday, April 12th at 6 p.m., we have a regular Board of Education meeting. Immediately following, we have a workshop for college and career readiness on the achievement gap reduction update. And then immediately following that, we do have a closed session. On Monday, April 19th, we'll have a workshop at 6 p.m. And Monday, April 26th at 6 p.m., a regular Board of Education meeting, and our elected board members will take their oath of office. Immediately following will be a workshop, financial stability and efficiency, proposed 2021-2022 budget and preliminary tax levy number 1. All right, we've got two board committee reports this evening, college and career readiness. Mr. Ustra?
Hello. Basically, what we're doing is we're going to move forward with a committee on standardizing 6 through 12 grades and align them with our elementary grading system. So that's what we're going to be moving forward with.
Wonderful. Any other updates on the committee? No? Good. Okay, we'll move on to our other committee updates this evening, financial stability and efficiency. Mr. Lee?
Thank you very much. At our last committee meeting, we discussed an update on COVID testing that we are working to get up and running at the Wellness Center. And so we are looking at, this will be for current staff only to start, but to allow testing on certain days and hours so that if there's someone who was exposed or experiencing symptoms that would like to get tested, they can set up an appointment at the Wellness Center to have that testing done. We're looking at expanding that with some help from the Milwaukee Health Department laboratory that's in process right now to be able to provide additional, so the initial testing is a rapid testing, essentially, to get a result within about 15 minutes. And there might be a follow-up testing required that we're hoping to work with the health department, the City of Milwaukee Health Department on that testing. So that's exciting to be able to provide to our staff, and hopefully if anyone is exposed or having symptoms could get an answer sooner rather than later and hopefully get back to work sooner. And then we additionally talked about the third round of ESSER funding, which we are going to be getting, and basically talked about the dollar amount that would be, as well as some possible uses for that funding, some of which can be a little bit longer term because I think we have to the 22-23 school year to be able to use that funding. So we really talked about some possibilities for that and some uses for the first two rounds of ESSER funding that we had already received.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Great updates today. All right, we'll move on to our consent agenda for the evening. There are 6 items on the consent agenda. Item 9.1, the approval of minutes from the March 8th regular Board of Education meeting and the March 8th Committee of the Whole meeting. The special Board of Education meeting for March 15th. Also, 9.2, our employment summary. Item 9.3, our supplementary contracts. Item 9.4, the financial summary. Item 9.5, the approval to issue 2021-2022 regular teacher contracts to eligible teachers. And item 9.6, the approval to issue preliminary non-renewal notice to teachers. I do know I have to separate out item 9.3.
Yes.
Are there any other items that need to be separated? Okay, seeing none, we would look for a motion on 9.1, 9.2, 9.4, 9.5, and 9.6.
Move to approve.
Second.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any additional comments or questions? All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? All right, and then we would look for a motion on 9.3.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. And we have an abstention. Okay. 1 abstention. Been moved and seconded. Any additional comments or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, yeah, it's wonderful. Okay, moving on to our action items for the evening. We have I was muted the whole time. So item 10.1 is our boys hockey co-op for the 2021, 2022, and 2022 and 2023 school years. Mr. Marion.
Yeah, so similar as last meeting, and I apologize, there was some movement with this in the last week, but New Berlin Eisenhower is turning over the co-op to Muskego, which would be a new addition to the co-op and a new lead. So with that, even though we're in the middle of a 2-year agreement, we have to again seek approval because it's being presented as a new co-op with a variety of other schools.
Thank you for that explanation. Any questions on the co-op proposal for Mr. Marion? If not, we prefer a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any additional comments or questions? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? All right, that passes. Thank you very much. All right, that takes us to the end of our regular agenda for this evening. We will take a 5-minute break and get ready for executive session. It is 6:26. We will reconvene at 6:31. So we are at recess. Thank you, everyone. Okay, so we had a motion and a second to join our open session. Does that take additional action back in open? Yes or no?
Okay, can you hear me? Yes. All right. Mr. Keller is excused. Mrs. Kaiser is excused. Ms. Klug? Here. Mr. Lee?
Yes.
Yes. Mr. Schultz?
Yes.
Mr. Sickett? Mrs. Justice?
Yes.
Mr. Eustruck?
Yes.
And President Emmons?
Yes, okay. So we would like to move to deny the complaints as presented and discussed in closed session this evening. We have a second.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any additional comments or questions? And then we'll do a roll call vote. Is that
Yes. Mr. Schultz?
Yes.
Mr. Eustruck?
Yes.
Mrs. Kaiser's excused. Mr. Keller's excused. Ms. Klug? Yes. Mrs. Justum?
I will be abstaining.
Thank you. Mr. Sickich?
Yes.
Mr. Lee?
Yes.
President Emmons?
yes? All right, that is the last item on our agenda this evening. We would look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? All right, thank you very much, everybody. Have a wonderful night.